Meanwhile, the U.S. carrying out self-defense strikes on a drone-controlled station and 10 one-way drones in Houthi-controlled areas of Yemen. This happening overnight. This is the USS Carney intercepted a Houthi anti-ship missile and shot down 3 other drones in the Gulf of Aden. Tensions are heating up in the Middle East once again as we await President Biden's response to the drone attack in Jordan that killed 3 American soldiers. Here's what the White House had to say about it yesterday. Watch.
We will respond in a time and in a manner of our choosing on our schedule. And just because you haven't seen anything in the last 48 hours, doesn't mean that you're not going to see anything. And as I said earlier, when you see the first thing, don't come to be thinking that that's going to be the last thing.
The U.S. also determining yesterday that the Islamic resistance in Iraq was responsible for the deadly drone attack. Joining me right now is former Director of National Intelligence, former Texas Congressman and prosecutor John Ratcliffe. John, great to see you this morning. Thanks so much for being here.
You bet. Good morning.
So they're talking about this resistance group. That's an Iranian-backed proxy, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. Tell me about the U.S.'s response. Yeah, go ahead, John.
Well, the U.S. response, it's ironic that you just played that clip of John Kirby yesterday and where he said the United States will respond to this in a time and manner of our choosing. The day before, General Ryder from the Pentagon podium said the same thing 4 times. Here's my problem with it, Maria. Here's why it's a broken record and it's empty rhetoric until some action is taken. Hit rewind. Go back to October 26th. When the number of attacks on U.S. troops was somewhere in the range of 25 or 26 at that time, John Kirby went to the same podium and told the American people that the United States would, and I quote, respond in a time and manner of our choosing. A few days after that, when the attacks continued to increase, Secretary of Defense Austin, in Senate testimony, said under oath the United States would respond, and I quote, in a time and manner of our choosing, end quote. Since then, there have been well over 100 more attacks on U.S. troops. And you've had guests, not just myself, but folks like General Jack Keane and former National Security Advisor O'Brien, Secretary of State Pompeo, all coming on saying, if you not take actions directly, Tier 1 targets against Iran, these attacks are going to continue and Americans are going to die. And I take no satisfaction in saying, unfortunately, we were right. And so do I think the administration's going to respond in some way? Yes. But I also think that it's after at least 3 preventable deaths. And, so we'll see what happens. I do expect that there'll be some targets taken maybe as early as today by this administration. But Maria, this should have been done not today, but should have been done not weeks ago, but should have been done months ago.
Well, it's all very disappointing and discouraging to see how this administration allows all of our adversaries to roll over us, John. And unfortunately, we've seen it in China, and now we're seeing it with Iran. I'd like to know how it's possible that the U.S. did not intercept that drone coming from the enemy. I don't know if it was human error or what the story is. They say they thought it was a different drone. How is it possible that it wasn't intercepted and now we've got 3 dead, 3 fallen heroes? But what is the motivation? I mean, why is this administration so, perplexed to actually blame Iran and say it? Even when President Biden yesterday said, yeah, we're going to respond in a matter that we choose in a time of our choosing, but I don't want a wider war in the Middle East. Why add that? I don't want a wider war in the Middle East, and show your cards.
Well, on top of that, he may not want that, Maria, but this escalation is widening because of their approach. And you ask why? It's because Joe Biden came into office and bragged about the fact that he was going to take a 180-degree reverse in policies from our Trump administration policies everywhere around the world, but particularly with respect to Iran. And he got exactly what he did. He reversed those policies 180 degrees, and as a result, the results are 180 degrees different. We had no attacks. Iran was broke. They couldn't afford to fund these backed militias, these proxies, Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, everyone throughout the Middle East. And it was his reversal of those policies, his stated, State Department saying, listen, we're prepared to lift all sanctions against Iran. They began negotiating on an Iranian nuclear deal that never happened. It was the reversal of these policies is why we have 160-plus attacks. It rises every day. And why even today, after 3 American service members were tragically and unnecessarily killed as a result of these things, we're still on our back foot. We're still playing defense. We're still having to shoot down Houthi missiles. And Iran, now emboldened with an economy that Joe Biden helped rebuild, are the ones that are putting Americans' lives at risk.
And helped rebuild because he didn't really follow through on any sanctions against Iran. That enabled Iran to generate billions and billions of dollars in revenue from selling oil on the black market. And what did they use that money for?
Absolutely. Yeah. To fund these proxies. Yeah. You know, the central bank reserves reflect that so clearly, Maria. And he didn't. He has not enforced any of the sanctions that still exist, that haven't been lifted, and not just against Iran, but against China. I mean, those were the things that we were in the Trump administration saying to China, look, if you buy Iranian oil, we'll sanction you further. And that's how we prevented those things. And that's how we will if there's a change in leadership, which is really the only way this problem is going to get solved. You know, Maria, Americans increasingly are reflecting, and we all sit here and talk about why doesn't Joe Biden do this? Why isn't he more like Donald Trump? The fact is he's never going to be more like Donald Trump. He's never going to be a great commander-in-chief. And so the thing that really to solve a lot of these problems around the world is to change leadership.
Well, part of it's all retaliation, right? I mean, you know, when Joe Biden walked into the Oval Office, he wanted to undo everything that Trump did. And, you know, Ben Carson the other day was speaking with him on Sunday Morning Futures, and he said that's infantile behavior. Okay, we don't just overturn things because we don't like the guy who put it in place. But he did that with China, okay, canceling the China initiative. He did that with Iran, pursuing the nuclear deal. And he did that at the border, okay? The border, where you and your colleagues at the time negotiated all these deals with Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, Mexico to stop the flow at the door of Mexico. House Speaker Mike Johnson slammed President Biden's handling of the border crisis, and he overturned all of that, we know. Biden overturned everything you put in place. The Senate border deal, of course, was the focus of Johnson's first floor speech since taking the gavel. He also warned about the heightened national security risk caused by all of this chaos. Watch this.
And I am here this morning to beg of my colleagues to help us force the administration to take action. We have to stop this now and put Americans and Americans' border security first. Understand the situation at our border presents a clear and present danger to our national security, and it demands that it be addressed. Even officials within the executive branch are saying so. While we don't know how many terrorists are inside our borders, it's an unknowable number.
It's an unknowable number, Director. And by the way, you know, 302,000 illegals in the month of December at the southern border. You look at the whole nation, it was 371,000 for just a month. The Democrat Eagle Pass, Texas mayor told Fox News yesterday that the ongoing showdown between the state and the Biden administration over control of Shelby Park is a constant struggle. Says he's tired of the games both sides are playing. John, assess where we are here at the border. This is your state, Texas.
It is, and, you know, God bless Texas. God bless Governor Abbott, Lieutenant Governor Patrick, and the things that they are doing to try and enforce the border. Governor Abbott was absolutely right in saying that, you know, there's an invasion taking place and that the federal government has violated its compact with the state of Texas. So Texas is doing something that's very smart, it's very important, and it's constitutional. And, you know, the numbers that you're showing, Maria, and that you've been talking about, you and I talked about this years ago. So for an entire last year of the Trump administration, we had around 400,000 for the entire year, roughly 1,000 illegals passing our border a day. Those numbers now are 6,000, 7,000, 8,000, 9,000, 10,000 a day. So you've got a 600, 700, 800, 900% increase. Governor Abbott's absolutely right in saying that's an invasion of people coming here illegally, committing crimes once they're here, drug trafficking, human trafficking, and he has every right, Texas has every right to defend the border that the Biden administration won't do. So what Texas is doing is very smart. What Senate Republicans are doing is not smart. Look, when the Speaker of the House says you're debating a bill that's dead on arrival if it comes over here, when they've already had a very good border security bill from the House, H.R. 2, that's over there in the Senate that they could take up if they really wanted to do something, that's the bill that they would be debating. But let me tell you what's happening, Maria, and this is why Senate Republicans need to be smart. Chuck Schumer's trying to build an excuse for Joe Biden in an election year for an issue that now poll after poll shows that immigration and border security is maybe the #1 concern of all Americans. And so an administration that spent the first 3 years saying the border is secure, there is no crisis, is now saying, yes, there is, but we need help, and it's Congress that's preventing us from doing it. Look, you could give Joe Biden 10 more laws. The guy won't enforce the laws that are on the books.
Yeah.
And, you know, with the laws that are on the books, President Trump had it down to 1,000 a day with building a border wall, and most importantly, policies and agreements that you talked about with our neighbors like Mexico and countries in the triangle to the south,
yeah.
and really the respect to enforce those laws with us.
Well, I mean, look, you're right, and you've got Republicans enabling it, right? Mitch McConnell and James Lankford are pushing this idea that we should have 5,000 illegals come in every day before anything can be done about anything. What happened to the 8 to 10 million that are already here on Joe Biden's watch? Is that not enough? 50 terrorists just in the last year? And I'm wondering how many of those, like you said, 8,000 a day, are Chinese nationals. During a House Select Committee on China hearing yesterday, FBI Director Christopher Wray had a stunning warning about the threat of Chinese hackers, saying that the issue requires our attention. How many of those Chinese hackers got here through the border? Watch this.
China's multi-pronged assault on our national and economic security make it the defining threat of our generation. There has been far too little public focus on the fact that PRC hackers are targeting our critical infrastructure. China's hackers are positioning on American infrastructure in preparation to wreak havoc and cause real-world harm to American citizens and communities if and when China decides the time has come to strike.
And, John, I know this is nothing new to you. You've been warning about this for years. We've been keeping a spotlight, and I've been reporting about the dangerous adversary that is Communist China now for 5 years plus. Your reaction to what you heard yesterday and why we're not seeing action from the FBI in response?
Yeah, Maria, you know, the good news is, I'll start with the good news. The good news is the FBI saying that it has prevented Chinese hackers from planting malware in our critical infrastructure, like our water systems, our electrical grid, our transportation systems. You know, that's a good news. But you're right, Maria. It's welcome to the party, even if it's a little bit late. I mean, I wrote an op-ed as the DNI back in December of 2020, talking about this very threat and why I increased spending on China by 20%. Specifically, in part because of the cyber threat from China and these very same things that they were attempting to do then. Of course, at that time, we were accused of being xenophobic and that it was political. So, you know, I guess the silver lining in this, it's good to finally have the FBI and other agencies coming out and saying the things that the Trump administration was saying 3 years ago. Take this threat seriously. Maria, you've been covering this. It's at every angle. The People's Republic of China, the CCP, and the PLA, you know, infiltrating, you know, police stations in the U.S., intellectual property theft, cyber attacks. You talk about the border issue, people flooding across. We've talked about this. How many of these folks came in the last few years under the Biden administration?
Yeah.
Well, we know certainly a significant percentage. There's absolutely no doubt about that. China's our #1 existential threat. At least we're now, everyone is openly talking about it, and maybe we can make some progress.
Yeah, unfortunately, it is maybe too late, because remember when the CCP was beginning all of its aggression and we were putting a spotlight on it, many in Congress, mostly your colleagues then on the left, the Democrats, were Russia, 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 Russia. Trump colluded with Russia, Russia, Russia. Meanwhile, China was eating our lunch. So I'd like to know how many of them were actually being paid. Because I remember back in 2017 and 18 talking with you and Devin Nunes about an investigation that was underway into communist China, which Devin Nunes launched as well. But Adam Schiff and your colleagues on the left were all about Russia. So we're going to keep a spotlight on that as well, John. Yeah, final word.
Yeah. Well, final word is, and now on the issue of election interference, you have the NSA and the FBI saying China's our greatest threat. Of course, we were saying that back in 2020, and again, what China's going to try and do is interfere in a way that keeps Joe Biden in the presidency, because he's been very good to China.
Is there anything we can do to stop that?
Yeah, everyone here needs to take stock of American leadership. It needs to be changed. All of these things that we're talking about, Maria, Joe Biden is never going to be like Donald Trump. Americans want him to be more like Donald Trump. Replace him with the original Donald Trump in 2024.
John, it's good to see you this morning. Thanks very much. John Ratcliffe joining us this morning.